Hello everyone. Welcome to Floral Friday. I'm sorry I'm a moment or two late. You can thank our fearless Sandy for that because I had to reset up my station because I haven't been on here since Sandy was here and did a live from my house. I hope everyone's had a great Friday. Took me a moment to remember what day of the week it was. Hey Sandy, I was just talking about you. I don't know if you were on here when I said it. I had to reset up all my station because I haven't been on here since you were here. I'm jealous that you guys are, well, I guess jealous in the sense that I just want to go to an expo because I want to go shopping. I know you guys aren't really shopping, you're working, but I'm looking forward to June. If I can convince Jamie to give me a few minutes to step away to go shop instead of just work. We'll see. Uh-oh. You shopped for me? That's the best kind of shopping. Alright. So, I guess I will get started. I figured I would try a slightly different time this week with Jamie and Sandy both being not doing their regular lives. And so I figured I would try it a little bit later this week for Floral Friday to see if that kind of worked better for people. I'm sorry I'm so late in doing this after the release, but with Creativation a couple weeks ago, this is just where we're at. So this is what we'll be working on tonight, is the new Pensive Peony. I was going to show off a couple tips and tricks and different things for putting it together. So, and I'm also figured I would try something different this week, and I would do, hey Jamie. Hello, Kathy. And so I also thought I'd do something different, and instead of using Copics, I'm actually going to use Karin Markers. So it's kind of weird to me that I'm going to basically use 5 watercolor markers and a water brush instead of like 50 Copics, I feel like. Might be slightly exaggerating, but not that much. Was working on coloring another image, and I did probably have about 50 images out because there might be a lot going on in it. Hi, Tammy. So, when I started playing around with the Peony, I learned quickly that I needed more than just... Oh, hi, Cheryl. I'm sorry, I missed you popping in there. I learned quickly that I needed more than just one of everything to get the look that I think of when I think of a peony. Because when I think of a peony, I think of a very full, large flower. So I have one of the big pieces from one of the big bases of the Peony. And then I have 2 of all the little extra pieces from the Peony. And I just went ahead and stamped off some leaves. And then I have 2 of the buds. Hello, Laura. Now I will fess up. Jamie, cover your ears. I'm using Bristol paper. The way that I use watercolor markers, I can't get it to work on Sweet Sentiment paper. I'm too heavy-handed. It's an issue with Copics. It's an issue with anything. I'm just too heavy-handed, and I have to finally acknowledge that. So you can, if you have a very light hand, you can get watercolor markers to work on Sweet Sentiment paper. It is possible. I tried it, and I know we have. But so, if you see, there is no sparkle in my paper tonight. It's unfortunate. But I figured Bristol is something that's pretty well, easy to find. Most people have some in their craft room. They just may have forgotten about it. So, it is something that's typically readily available. Hello, Jen. Okay, so now there's 4 people who I know are all at least in the same city. Not sure if you're all in the same room, but you're all at least in the same.
Jamie wrote 3 of them are in the same room.
Okay.
I'll go.
Can you fill this for me?
Get up my fingernails. Like super forward.
No, like halfway. Oh, now you're down to 3 now. Hold for one moment, please. I am having... You went home, Jen? I don't blame you. That's Sandy and Jamie. They can be real exhausting. All right. Well, that's just a little too convenient, Jen. All right. So, just to get warmed up, I'm going to start off on one of the smaller petals so that we're not tackling like this big thing first. And so, in case you have Karin Markers at home and you're wanting to work with them, what I'm using tonight is Burgundy, which is 075, and Soft Peach 1, which is 200. No, not at all what I'm saying, Jamie. No. You don't exhaust me at all.
Is that 200?
Yes, 200. I think it's more just when we're all together, we do things that exhaust all of us. Because we're on the go, nonstop. All right, so what I'm going to do is you will see me often. I'm going to make sure it's on the screen. I use the back of my hand. Oh, I can't wait. See, Jen, you're taking them to DC. I took them to Universal, and then we had to go back and work at the show again the next day, and I think we were all just exhausted. You're doing it smart. You're doing it after the expo. We did it right in the middle. So you'll see me, and it'll probably be kind of off screen, but what I'm doing is in an effort to try to control the water coming out of my water brush, I use the back of my hand to kind of wash it off some. So if you see me kind of just running my water brush off there, it's just to kind of control my water. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take just clean water. You can use just a paintbrush with water, whatever works best for you. Well, hello, Christina. And I about did this one completely wrong. But at least we would do it before the show started. And so it's just the mega make. We can ease back into it. It's not like right smack dab in the middle of it like we did this last one. So I'm going to put in, like I put in my clean water, and then I'm just going to put this down and let it bloom out some. Same thing with my soft peach, except for I'm going to do it coming in from the top. We're not looking for exact. We're just looking for putting some color down. Then we're going to go back to our water brush, dabbing it off again because you've already got a decent amount of water in here because we had that water down beforehand. And we're just trying to move that color around some and let it blend together.
Tyler's team is asking about your water pen.
It's a... I don't know what... Oh, are you saying... So, I mean, the water brush is just a simple, like, plain water brush. I mean, I think honestly this one might be the Tim Holtz one if I'm having to guess. But I mean there's all kinds of brands out there. The markers are the Karin Markers, which are water based also. Yeah, I mean there's all kinds of Altenew, there's just the color pens are Karin Markers, so let's see here. Yeah, this is close. I'm so zoomed in. But yeah, it's just the Karin brush markers. See, at some point there's gonna be this lovely delay. Okay, so now now that I'm not like starting from nothing, I'm going to start working on my big one because there are going to be times where we kind of have to let it dry in between. So I'm going to just pick a petal. And just like with Copics, we're going to, well, not just like with Copics. Yes. Oh, sorry. Hold, please. At least you guys know I have the same issues with these. It's just, I'm used to being able to color.
I feel like I should make you start going live from over here on this desk so I can film you doing it. Keep you in frame.
You know. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip a petal. Because if we put water next to water, it's just going to bleed and we're going to have one big messy petal. So I'm going to skip over to this petal. No real major rhyme or reason to it. It's just more you're wanting to do all of them. And yes, I'm sorry, I totally skipped this and I'm coming back to it now. Thanks to Jamie, I finally have a full set of Karins. She helped me secure this set while they were down here. Because for those of you that know me, I love bright things. It's not just my last name. So I have had zigs for a long time, but they're just not bright enough for me. And so that's one of the things I love about the Karins, is that I can get some beautiful bright colors.
They have the entire neon line also.
Oh yeah. Plus I have neons, and that's just dangerous. So that's way too much. Excuse the fact that I totally just put my finger in one of them. This is what happens when you're trying to... So what's everybody up to on this lovely Friday evening, other than the Chantilly, Virginia crew? We know you guys are selling up a storm and trying to stay awake. Let's skip over to this one, because technically all three of those kind of touch where I was just working. The nice thing about the Peony is there's so many layers by the end of it that really this bottom one, you're just kind of trying to get the idea of the colors down below. Because you're not gonna like clearly see it.
Can you lift it up before you do the next one, where you, like when you put the water down and then you let it bloom before you go to smooth it, so they can actually see that without you having to zoom in, or will it run?
It'll run. I can zoom in.
I just know when I watched you, it was easier to see when I could see it closer.
Okay.
So that might help make sense on what you're saying.
Alright, so let me see here. Now I just have to figure out where I'm at. Okay, I think I'm in Zoom. So what Karin was asking, so what I'm doing is what's called blooming. So I'm like, that's the water that I put down, and then I'm just putting some color down in it and letting it kind of do its own thing.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
So, fun fact about me, watercolors scare me. Just because it seems so technical. Watercolor markers, I feel like, are much more approachable. I will do some watercolor stuff, but as a whole, the medium kind of scares me. All right. So we're going to leave our big flower alone. We're going to do a couple small ones now. And since I can see that this 2-petal flower is in camera, I'm going to do it. Depending on how quick you are, you can do these 2 petals together. You can do them separate. Whatever is more comfortable for you. I'm gonna go all out and try to do it together with reckless abandon. And then just like before. So one of the nice things with the Bristol is where it is a very coated, the top layer of it is very coated. You have the ability to go in and really move things around. It almost acts like, if you think of like a paint palette or like a solid piece of glass or something, it has some of those same properties in the sense that you have time to work with it. But then when it dries, it obviously dries into the actual fibers of the paper. And so that's why it works so nicely with watercolor markers.
You can really tell what you're doing, where you have that level of zoom.
The other thing you can do, if you're not patient or don't want to be patient, is you can also take a heat tool to it, which I might hear in a little bit, but I just find that it dulls the color some, so I try not to as much as possible, but I probably will towards the end just so we can speed things along.
You want to inch up just a touch.
Sorry, everybody.
I know we had you zoom super far in, so.
The other thing to think about when you're using Karin markers is, or any type of watercolor marker, is the more brush strokes you have in it, the harder it's going to be to kind of work those brush, like the actual marker marks away. So if you can, it can be done, don't get me wrong. I mean, you can see we're doing it even here. But that's why I kind of like to start with like a blooming with them, because then it's easier to kind of get that smooth transition, and then you don't have any weird lines or anything. All right, so now I'm gonna go back, or try to go back to my big one, the big petal. And we're going to do a few more on it. So now that we've kind of done these a couple times, I'm gonna speed up a little bit, just so that you're not here all night watching me color, since I know part of what people are here for is to see the actual assembly. And you will want to be somewhat careful. Obviously, these are still water reactive inks for all intents and purposes, so if you touch even your dry petals, you can still reactivate the inks. Well, thank you, Sandy. Sandy, since I'm assuming Jamie's gone, how did her first in-person flower class go? I guess it's not her first, but maybe it is her first from an expo in-person flower class go today. I was looking through the Florida Expo book that got released this week, and I saw the big Sweet Sentiment. Much more tame.
I feel like we're missing a really good story.
I feel like I missed out on not going to Pinners. Because all that I remember about the expos, and obviously this is all pre-COVID, there ain't nothing tame about the expos, but I guess things have probably tamed down quite a bit from what they used to be. Oh, but yeah, I saw the big Sweet Sentiment logo and Tropical Flora in the booklet, and I was like, hey, I know a thing or two about that. Wow. Well, we'll need to have a catch up then, because I want to hear all about Pinners once you guys
Even Tammy says Pinners was interesting.
slow down for a minute. I have to imagine that it's a very different crowd. Just based on the number of kids I saw in your pictures, I have to imagine. Oh, Sandy. That doesn't seem fair, or like it would work out, or I'm going to be adventurous and keep going on this. See, had I known that at Creativation, I would have just said, I'm used to Pinners conferences. I thought I could just show up for whatever. For that class I wanted to go to. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Somebody will probably tell me to move by the time the delay catches up. But I did catch myself. Yeah, that doesn't... What they should have done is they should have brought Barry and let him just stand at the...
Did you not read my comment?
I did. That's what I'm saying. They should have brought Barry and let Barry stand and play bouncer and say who comes and who doesn't. Alright.
Sadie said no one would have entered.
Okay, now we're just going to do these last two little petals real quick at the same time. You'll see I kind of got over a little bit, but we're just gonna roll with it. Work it out some so that it all evens out. And there we go. There's all these. Now we have these real quick that won't take us like any time at all. They're so much fun, Sandy, and they're just a nice change of pace. Find them to be a lot quicker than Copics because you kind of just, in a weird way, it's also kind of freeing because depending on how you work with them, it's kind of like you get what you get. You don't. It's a little less control.
Babe, you could probably zoom back out now that you did all that other one super zoomed in.
I'm here now.
Okay.
I've gotten used to this. See, I like it because even like I feel like these petals look like real confusing at the moment, but by the time you take some water to them, you can make something pretty out of it. Also, Sandy, I figured out what you're supposed to do with their quote-unquote blender brush. You're supposed to use like a palette and have it on the side, and you can mix colors on the palette and then use that to then bring it to the paper like a paintbrush. So yeah, you would just take and like scribble off some color on, like if you had like on your glass media mat or something, and then mix them together and then bring that over to your project and use that color. So you basically, it's to make new colors.
Sandy's gonna be making every shade of purple.
Yeah, once I learned that, I was like, oh, so this is kind of like Karin's colorless blender. Something that really doesn't even remotely do what you think it's gonna do.
Do you just leave that little bit around the edge so that you can keep it within the lines?
Yeah.
Sorry if you already said that.
No, I didn't.
My ADHD.
Yeah, I leave when I start off, I try to leave just a little bit of white so that I have room to then bring it to the line, as opposed to it already being at the line and then having no way to avoid it. That could have been disastrous. I twirled the marker around and about dropped it. All right. Yeah, it's really easy to go outside the lines, Sandy. It's, all right. So, I'm going to do one of the leaves, because I do them slightly differently than I've done everything else. But then I'm going to dry these, and then we can put them together, since I know that's why everybody's really here. Yeah. So I'm using grass, which is 253. I'm not even remotely in camera, I'm sorry. Grass, 253. And olive green, 281. So how I have done the leaves is more, I think technically how you're supposed to use these markers, which is like coloring and then taking a water brush to them. But so what I do is I come from both ends, put some of my dark green down, put some of my light green down in the middle, and then just taking some water to smoothly blend these together. Or it's also a leaf, so if it's not perfectly smooth, no big deal. All right. So I'm going to zoom back out. There we go. I'm going to try to zoom back out. I am going to take my heat gun to this really quick, so I'm sorry for the noise. Please talk amongst yourself.
think it's just the sun. Is it saying it's still wet?
Let's not put that there. I will end up burning myself. I understand, Sandy. I'm almost to your favorite part, though, or the part you want the most. Why am I struggling right now with this? So with the big one, you just kind of have to keep rotating it around until you figure out where it's supposed to be. The rest of them are fairly easy because they're pretty simple shapes to figure out. Yeah, Sandy's just traveling the whole month of April and May, basically.
The beginning of June back here.
True. Sorry again. Sandy, what you should have done is you should have just like rented an RV or a tour bus or something and just toured the US and done it that way.
I'm sure she would have much preferred driving over flying. You know she loves to drive everywhere.
Then you could just get stuck in an RV with Jamie. All right. Now here's the fun part. Well, I say fun part. And Jamie's gone for it, but you know, she'll have to watch the replay. So now what I do, and let me make sure I'm like relatively in frame here, is I don't like this to just be one big solid piece. So I take and I actually cut in, which this is more the part that I wanted Jamie to see than anything, because I'm actually fussy cutting something. Oh, she is watching? Okay. And so, seeing how I don't really like this, like, funky... Oh, I'm not in frame. I'm sorry, everybody. I don't like this funky white piece, so I'm going to find a way to kind of make it curl off. And so now I have some separation there. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm not going to do every petal, but I am going to do every couple so that we can have
gives it a lot of movement when you do that.
Mm-hmm. And when you see how we're going to shape this in a minute, you will see.
Now understanding what all those white pieces I found over there were.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I lost mine. That's still in here.
One thing I will tell you when you're cutting them is you don't want to go all the way to the center, because we are going to poke a hole in the middle to put some stamens through, because we're doing this like an open peony. So you don't want to go like all the way to the center, or it'll make your flower tend to separate in the middle real easily. So we'll do this one. So I'm only going like maybe 2/3 of the way down on these petals that I am taking towards the center. And there we go. So now we've got some movement and some life. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my handy dandy soft mat and stylus and water. Just going to lightly spritz the back of my paper. On these in particular, where I have used water-based pins on them, if you spray the front, you're going to get watermarks. The nice thing about using Bristol is where it is coated, you can spray the back, soften up the fibers underneath it, and it's not going to affect the front. Just a piece of advice. On this, we're not doing anything crazy. I'm just trying to like break some of these fibers up some. So even if you don't have a stylus or a tool, this is one of those times where you could use a glue stick, the backside of a pen, a Sharpie, anything, just to kind of break these up. Because then what we're going to do is we're going to take all of our petals that we've now formed, and we're just going to crease these. We're going to kind of squish them together. And we're just going to do that all the way around. So this is part of why we cut them apart, was so that we then have the ability to kind of squish these together in sections. And by taking a ball tool, two of them, or something to break down the fibers, it then allows us to kind of work that out. So then once we do that, we'll kind of just separate them back out. But now we kind of have that start of a fluffy peony. Now, on these next petals, as we've discussed before, I have large hands, so I'm going to spray them all at once. Obviously, you don't have to spray them all at once. You can do them in sections. But I'm going to spray them all at once and then spray one off my hand. I also lost...
turned off your light.
Well... Ooh. Everybody, we're doing this with one light the rest of the time. I apologize.
Let me see if I can hit my light over there. Is that really bad shadow?
No. Alright, so same thing with these. We're just going to go through, get them all. Kind of loosen all the petals. And then we're going to crease. This big petal, I like to do in two sections, not all at once, just because I'm finicky like that. So Cheryl, has it warmed up any up your way? Or are you still frigid? All right. Now we'll just kind of... Now we're going to take our big one. We're going to take some kind of piercing tool and put a good sized hole in the middle of it. So I have these golf tools, any type of paper piercer, just to kind of put a big, you can see there, a good sized hole in the center of it. So the first couple times I made these, I took and tried to poke a hole in the middle of these two-piece flowers. I've given up on that because it never really works out all that well for me. So what I have started doing is I just take and cut like a crease out of the middle. And that's just so we can put it around the stamens a little bit easier. So I'm going to do that on both of these. Hopefully it'll make more sense once we actually put it together.
got like a V shape.
Yeah, a little V out of the middle.
So you can slide it into place.
Mm-hmm. All right. I have some just yellow pollen head stamens that I found, and I honestly can't tell you where they're from. But we have some in the shop, some multicolor stamens in the Sweet Sentiment shop that you can use that work well also. For a peony, if you think of a peony, like the center of a peony it's a very fluffy, it's a very full flower, a true open peony. So I like to have a good bunch of stamens. Well, Sandy, that's always my goal, is for them to look as real as possible. So truthfully, this wire, there's the heartfelt, like, wired stamens. When I cut them off, I just keep these because they're like perfect wire to use for what we're about to work on. If you don't have those, you can also just use like jewelry wire. If you use like a 28 to 30 gauge jewelry wire, that works also. But I like these just because they work perfect, just to kind of, they're flexible, they bend easily. So I just bunch up my stamens and have them in the middle. Another thing I like to do also, full disclosure, I'm slightly stalling because I forgot to turn my glue gun on in time. Sorry. These are yellow, and I mean, you would have yellow stamens in the middle of a peony, but another thing you can have is you can have like just a slight tinge of the color. So I take a relatively similar ink pad and a dauber, and I just take and kind of push them down on top of it to kind of just give them different color, just something different. You don't have to. It's all personal preference. You can see on the first one, on the one I did on my card, I didn't do it. I just thought, something a little different. Show you something else that you can do with them. They're completely customizable. You can do whatever you want with them. So now here's where we're going to build this flower very differently than how you would normally build a flower, because we're actually going to build it from the bottom up. Normally when you assemble a flower, you would assemble it from the top down. So you would build it up, and then you would start poking your stamens through the very top. Because of this one not having, like, you could put holes in all of these if you really want to do. I don't get the look that I want out of it, so I'm just showing you the way that I like to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to poke my stamens through. Don't want to pull them all the way through. I want to leave them up some. I'm going to hold my stamens, turn it upside down, and take my hot glue gun and put some glue at the base. And then I'm going to sit here and hold it and let that glue dry some. I have enough stamens to do like one more peony in that color. There's plenty of other stamens though in this house.
Shall we show them your box?
No, we don't have to show them. They don't need to see everything tonight.
I have enough to do a Floral Friday for the next 800 years.
Now what we're going to do is we're going to put some glue down around the base. I'm going to take one of those two flowers, the 2 petal sections, and I'm going to put it there around it. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to kind of sneak it in from another side, but then so I'm going to rotate it. And sneak it in right there. So now you should have one going one way. So you're basically making a plus sign, effectively.
Or Charlotte says an X marks the spot.
Or an X marks the spot. So now this next part is really just all about personal preference. You're going to take the remainder of your petals and you're going to put them in your flower. I put it in my little poker pad. And now we're just going to take our petals. I like to put a little bit of glue on the front, most of my glue on the back, but you never know exactly where these are going to land. So that's why I like to have some glue on both sides. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to start building up.
Maybe scoot it up just a touch.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
You've got it good now where it's at.
You get used to one spot and then you move and... Right, so I have one more petal here. And with this last petal, I'm going to try to pull all these stamens that have kind of worked their way over to this one open spot. I'm going to pull them up and then stick that petal down in there.
If someone didn't have that pokey tool, babe, could they use like a bamboo skewer?
You could. It might be a little difficult. You want something metal.
Like an ice pick?
An ice pick would work. Just something metal and pointy would work. But there is our finished peony.
Did you want to show them this one where you had added the glitter?
Oh, yeah.
I compare the two.
So then also, like, obviously you can add glitter. You can do all kinds of fun things with these once you're finished. So I just took, like, one of the yellow hydro sponges and put just a crystal, like, just a clear glitter. You can see I also just used the regular yellow stamens in the middle. Put 2 leaves with it. And then I just took some other stamens just to kind of fill in the space behind it. And then you can see one of the, yeah, what Dale said. I took and put the geometric, I heat embossed it in the background, and then cut out the sentiment, one of the sentiments that comes with it. And then at some point, we'll have to do this background, because this is actually made, I used, using my gel press, and, like, powder watercolors, so, like, the color burst from Ken Oliver and stuff, and it was really fun. It was a lot of fun to work with and play with, and that's, if we want to talk about no control, you have no control over it, really, but it was a lot of fun, and it made a really pretty, like, background to work off of. And then in honor of Jamie, I put some stickles down at the bottom. But yeah, we'll do the background some other time, because I know it's getting late for people and for me, because, you know, it's 10 o'clock over here.
We'll have to get up and open.
Oh, yeah.
At SeaWorld tomorrow.
Yeah. It is clean. But yeah, we're going to SeaWorld in the morning, so, because Granny and Granddaddy feel like they lost out because we didn't go last weekend because Charlotte was sick, so now they all want to go. So, I hope everyone had fun tonight. I enjoyed getting to hang out with you guys and spend some time. And I will see you guys all later. Bye.